I and my colleague were psychologists, probably social psychologists, and a number of years ago we developed ways of exploring consumers' ways of thinking about products. I mean, we were just heard about how you see what the target is and what the context is of a particular product. Well, it's a consumer making that decision, and that's a psychological process. And the curiosity is, if anybody looks me up on the web, you probably will find that I'm, if known at all, best known for developing scientific offender profiling. And indeed, my colleague, Dr. Youngs, was the psychological profiler, the investigative psychologist on the Hunted television program recently. And by odd coincidence, the work we started on with looking at consumers' conceptualizations of products actually was the basis for the work we then developed for dealing with offenders and contributing to police investigations, which is, over the last quarter of a century, has developed into a whole area of science in its own right. And when we heard about this conference, we thought it would be good to remind you to reintroduce this early work on the basis on which individuals make judgments when it comes to products, how they choose things off the shelves, and the fundamental psychological processes are involved in that. It's very, obviously very valuable, very powerful to get caught up in all the statistics of what sells where and when, but to understand why is a fundamental psychological issue. And we developed a procedure for generating and understanding what that issue was. And it's a sort of social psychological approach. We deal with individuals' decisions and categorizations, but then we feed it back to them as part of a group process. I've always been very uncomfortable with the whole idea of focus groups as a sort of generalized chat from which you draw what you want. And if you can give those groups something much more structured and focused that you actually have in a systematic way, then you've got a much better chance of understanding what the processes are, and even more importantly, of building up really objectively based maps of the marketplace, of how people see and think about the entities they're dealing with. And we've applied this in many different contexts over the years. I keep on emphasizing that this was some time ago because the video I'll show you in a minute that summarizes this and illustrates it with one particular example. When I looked at it again, I was a bit horrified to see the jacket I was wearing and the ancient computer we're using. In those days, it took an awful lot of computer power. Now we can do it instantly. So it's really, the computing analysis was in many ways way ahead of its time in terms of its demands. But we've applied it over the years to many different sort of entities. Really, you can take any entity you can take, whether it's a logo or the work we did on biscuits or on chocolates or advertisements or even on victim statements or on places people go for leisure activities. Any entity you can identify. We've even done it with labels. A quite intriguing study we did was to compare transsexuals and transvestites' conceptualization and what it meant to be male and female, which was very revealing. And I'm sure you'd probably rather hear much more about that than about biscuits and chocolates. But those are the examples that we're dealing with. So the central notion really is that it was not me who came up with the idea that people categorize things. It was actually Aristotle. So it goes back a long way, that we deal with the world by assigning entities to categories. And what we need to do is to explore that categorization process. So we take the entities, the objects, whether it's concepts of gender or biscuits, we take those concepts and we get people to categorize them. And we build up this type of matrix, which then allows us to do pretty sophisticated computer analysis to turn that matrix into a map. And one of the key examples that we did very early on with this process was to actually take, it was a contract we had actually with United Biscuits, looking at people's conceptualizations of biscuits. I was told at the time that in Britain we spend more on biscuits than we do on education. I don't know if that's still the case, but certainly it's a huge market. And this is the end representation. What we have here is that each point is a type of biscuit entity. At the bottom, you've got things that have very little added to them, and it curves up around to the right, where you have this confectionery activity. And as many of you will know, you can take the essence of the biscuit and add things to it in various ways. And this map shows us how that market works in terms of people's conceptions, and you can actually put onto it the sales component in relation to the areas and see how it is that there are some areas which are dominated by certain products, which are the center of those areas, which have very high sales, and then you move away from that with lower market uptake. But just to illustrate the point very simply that we did in this context, just to look at this map very simply, you've got these entities that people, broadly speaking, think of as naughty but nice, bad but fun, and these other entities that are good for you, but they're really rather boring. And you can see there's a gap, a very clear gap in this summary of people's conceptualizations. And the story is that a search for something that filled that gap actually led to the design and development of hobnobs. So this is the essence of what I'm trying to introduce to you, the need to get to the why of consumer activities, the need to understand the psychological processes as people can express them. But we actually explore the way people make decisions. They put labels on it, but those labels can vary in many different ways whilst people are still making the same sort of judgments. So the underlying process is looking at their judgments. But then on top of that, we can develop an understanding of what that process is. And some years ago, we got asked to look at the people's conceptualizations of chocolates, looking particularly at an older market. And so the individuals we worked with were all older. I had a number of researchers working on this, all of whom were young women, and I discovered afterwards that the boxes that we'd worked with were all empty. So we discovered something about young women and chocolates along the way. But the video really puts it, we don't have much time here. The video puts it as succinctly as I can, and I think the technology is such that the video should play when I press this button. Choice depends on distinguishing one thing from another. We may not be able to put into words how we distinguish things, but we can say what is similar and what is different. These similarities and differences create a mental landscape with areas of certain sorts of products and regions of others. This may have islands or congested areas with high-profile products or undeveloped territory. If we can map this mental landscape and describe that territory where there's opportunities for development, then we can see where there are new product possibilities. The challenge is to bring this internal map of the product domain into public view. A revolutionary procedure has been developed here at the University of Liverpool that allows us to look at the way people think about products and to map their mental landscape. By using the power of individual comments and focus group discussions, we can enrich our understanding of this mental map to help new product development and advertising. This is an example from chocolates that have been selected to cover the most popular on the market. The first stage is for people to consider the similarity and differences between chocolates. The main thing is that each of the chocolates in any given group are similar to each other in some important way about what you feel about them, and different from the others. This gives us each person's own views about the similarities and differences between each of the products. Each person may be different, but there will be some overlap because they come from the same broad social group. We can take these different personal mental maps and put them into a computer. We do this by taking each person's judgment and using them to give a code for each chocolate. We can then combine these codes across any mixture of people. The computer then gives us a summary of the distinctions people make as if it were a combination of all their mental maps. We can turn this computer printout into a map of actual chocolates. This can then be presented back to the participants, and they can understand and comment on it without any knowledge of statistics.
I would never buy a box of chocolates myself. I'd buy a box of chocolates to give to somebody.
They're mostly milk chocolates, which is what most people prefer.
To me, that's a biscuit.
Would you agree with that?
Because I feel as though I'm a happy-go-lucky person, and that's what Maltesers remind me of.
Well, what is it about toffee that is like you?
I like the toffee and the crunchy ones.
You've got a hard centre.
Well, it must be Quality Street.
We can do this with as many groups as we wish, of different kinds and different compositions. This gives us a range of ways of seeing the products. We can use a computer to combine these to get an overall map. We can enrich our understanding of what this means from the group discussions and individual comments.
You're all soft inside, are you?
Yeah, I think I am, actually,
Yeah. White.
Nice and smooth. We all have the
Nice and
same
smooth, yeah, okay.
I was going to put Ferrero Rocher, but I couldn't spell it.
From the combination of the computer output and the comments from participants, we can identify how the consumer's conceptions work and where there may be opportunities for new products. So we end up with a map of people's conceptualizations of the chocolates. And what this shows in this particular example is that we have a set of products here that are really rather distinct from another group over here and distinct again from a third group. Actually, there are many more than these simple three functions. We can identify a whole range of different ways in which these chocolates can be of use to people. We can explore these functions and uses by looking at the detailed comments that people make in the group discussions and in their individual writing, so that we can take a particular group of these more luxurious, significant chocolates and see that they are described to give for a birthday present, or they tend to be for women, or they're to share with friends. Some people, of course, see them as a sheer luxury, not to share, or as a surprise that people might enjoy. Having established people's concepts and general descriptions of the uses and functions and meanings of these different chocolates, we can now identify areas in which there are currently no products. This allows us to define what may sit in that area by looking at the products on either side of it. Another interesting example is revealed by this gap here that is between products that people grab on the run to satisfy themselves, as opposed to these more luxurious products that they see as something that is more rewarding, richer and more special. So can we think of a product that is used for functional purposes, but takes some of its quality from the rewarding and satisfying aspects of these products?
This brief film illustrates the essence of a powerful process. This has been used for topics that range from police investigations of serious crimes through to the design of buildings. It has tremendous potential and wide applicability.
Okay. Thanks. So, just want to emphasise that any entity can be used. It can just be a label, or it can be the actual product. And of course, we can feed into it, as we have done in some studies, things that don't exist, just the packaging of some sort of new idea, and see how people interpret it and what they make of it. The other intriguing thing that we found is that we can actually get really quite reliable and robust results with relatively small groups, because we're dealing with it intensively. It does seem that the results relate very readily both to market share and to other much more large-scale studies. This video is actually available on YouTube at that address if you wanted any more background information. Thank you.